policy shift, di ba? So would you say that meron ba talagang kailangan i-de-escalate?
Well, I mean, forget about tensions and escalation. We're reaching a moment of truth because China has made it very clear that should the Philippines push ahead with fortifying yung base natin, effectively yung base natin yung Sierra Madre dyan sa yung Inchol, or do anything major in other disputed areas, they're going to intervene militarily. So they have made it very clear. And at the same time, they're also very concerned dun sa direction ng Enhanced Defense Cooperation Agreement natin, especially yung EDCA na medyo lumalapit sa Taiwan because may concerns din sila sa Taiwan. So all of these things are coming together. So I think that as far as China is concerned, first of all, they're scrambling their head. How did we go from Duterte, who said, I love China, China will protect me, and all of that, to this situation whereby you have a president who's doubling down on security cooperation with the West, joint patrols, going to the Pentagon, going to Indo-PACOM. So I think, first of all, there's a shock element there, and that's why I'm worried.
So is it that though, Richard? Or is it that tweet on X? Sorry. Yung
The congratulatory message.
Well, that's just the latest iteration of this escalating tensions because some people are saying that that was just a faux pas by BBM. Perhaps na-excite siya masyado, nag-congratulate siya. But I think that was quite calculated. I think the president was calculating.
Di tinitignan niya kung anong magiging reaction sa China. Yun ang basa ko dun eh.
Or sinasabi niya sa China na we have options in terms of getting closer to Taiwan, friendlier to Taiwan. Because one of the
Pero okay, okay, I'm gonna cut you off right there because historically, no, we do follow this one China. We have our own one China policy, but unlike other countries, we also have special relationships with Taiwan.
Sure.
Bukod dun sa 200,000 OFWs natin doon, andun yung MECO office.
Yes,
Diba?
but the thing is, okay,
Okay.
just to be clear, I mean, I've been in Taiwan. I was a visiting scholar there in National Chengchi. I met President Ma, I met President Tsai. One of the things I always notice when I meet them as a Filipino is like how little interaction we really have with Taiwan compared to how much is at stake. Not only 200,000 OFWs, but Taiwan is like the center of the universe when it comes to semiconductor production. They're a super high-tech country. You go to Vietnam, you go to Thailand, you go to Malaysia, Vietnamese investors are all over the place. You look at the Philippines, actually not much has been going on. And then during Digong, you had a former presidential spokesman who openly said, oh, Taiwan is essentially a non-existent political entity. It's just part of China. So actually there was a lot of dismissiveness. And let's not forget, the other big problem we have is we don't put professional diplomats to represent us dun sa Metco. It's usually some ex-official, some businessman. Actually, I think with Sylvester Bello, it's a better case because we have so many OFWs. So it's a really under-top relationship, considering that it takes you just 1 hour to go to Taipei from Manila, 3 hours to Singapore, 3 hours to Malaysia. So what President BBM is perhaps saying here is that this under-top relationship could be a little bit more tapped than usual. And they talk about economic relationship, they talk about people, but it could be strategic, especially because of EDCA. If we give Americans more access to bases in Cagayan, Isabela, more presence in Batanes, for China, that's a nightmare situation just when they're also worried about Ayungin Shoal. So this is where I think we need to have some conversation, really, with our Chinese counterparts.
Is it time to revisit the One China policy? This was actually adopted during Marcos Sr.'s time.
Right.
50 years later, should we rethink it? And what cards do we have on that side? Hindi ba pagka, kumbaga, nagagalit na nga sila dun sa EDCA eh, and we further infuriate them, we risk ourselves getting into that conflict on that side of the region?
Well, I mean, first of all, I would say there's like 50 shades of One China policy, right?
Correct.
More than 100 countries around the world. I mean, ilan na lang bansa na hindi...
Kanya-kanyang interpretation.
Exactly.
Say,
So how you
depends sa
execute it really
interpretation.
depends, and it goes from administration to administration. So we're just telling the Chinese that we may have a different shade of One China policy, which might be darker than what you want. So I think that's a good... In fact, you're absolutely right, Gretchen, that there is risk here, but there's also opportunity here. Now, one of my controversial semi-arguments, and I stand to be corrected by our friends in the government and all, is that we actually can use the EDCA in the, near Taiwan as a leverage of West Philippine Sea. So we can tell the Chinese, okay, there's an EDCA, but it's up to us to decide how many American troops are there, what weapon systems they put, how much further north the Americans are going to go. In exchange, medyo bring it down in the West Philippine Sea.
Malay mo,
So
that's
that
one of
gives
their
you
cards.
I'm sure.
It could be, right?
Both of us are playing for leverage. The Chinese are seeing what we're doing and we're seeing
May
what they're doing.
nababasa ako kasi
Exactly,
na
yeah.
pagka nagre-react daw yung China violently against something, like for example, this pronouncement,
This
congratulatory
tweet,
message of the president, medyo dun sensitive si China eh.
Right.
Which in case nakita natin dito, our ambassador was summoned
Right.
in China.
That's true.
So yun siguro, no, yung parang touch
Yeah,
point,
but
sensitive
they're
touch
always
points.
sensitive, right? I remember every time with
It didn't end there,
you
ah.
offend the feelings of 1 billion
Okay.
people, yung mga ganun. Like,
Richard,
yeah.
Defense Chief Gibo Chodoro also weighed in expressing his dismay over, quote, the Chinese Foreign Ministry spokesperson stooping down to gutter-level talk and even insulting the Philippine president.
Okay, here
you
I'm gonna
seen
make trouble.
the-
Probably Gibo
Right.
will not come to my show here anymore. Ganito ang sabi ko, okay.
Ano mo na sasabihin mo? Hindi naman siya masyadong
No,
gutter.
I'm not. No, I think Gibo is not saying God, and I think Gibo is doing a fantastic job of calling out some of the wolf warrior diplomacy, pa-cute na mga ano. doon. But I'd rather have our DFA take the lead on statements about China. When I hear non-DFA people saying there's no point in diplomacy with China or hindi question, malapit ng elections, mainit ang tao sa China. I know everyone wants to be suddenly tough on China. I'm not talking about Gibo per se, but I remember very well during Duterte time, ilan lang kami, nag-oppose kay Duterte na, to say it openly. Suddenly now, uso na ngayon maging anti-China and all. For me, dapat ang uso ngayon, statesmanship. Because mataas na intention, your president has
Right.
already made the right decision. US is coming, so please lang, okay, this
You
is a
have to
time for
control the
serious
situation.
statesmanship. This is not contribute. So, all due respect, this is a great way of calling it out, but I'd rather have Enrique Manalo and DFA people take the lead on this. And
Why
us,
do you say that? I mean, we've seen that in the past year, that tensions have been heightened. Why are you suddenly very much more cautious now? Is that related
yeah, I know,
to...
this doesn't sound Idarian, right?
Yeah.
I'm always
Is
the
that
guy, let's
related
go, let's
to
go.
the Taiwan election result?
Everything. I mean, for me, I think it's dark clouds are gathering in China is very jittery these days. Their economy is slowing down. Xi Jinping is consolidating power, so everything goes wrong. It's on him. We're not giving them anything. I think there should be always an off-ramp in any situation of escalating tensions, just to make sure you keep it below a threshold. Having said that, I'm still going to be Haydar, and I'm going to say we need to show to China that we're here to get their respect.
Ito nga yung
They
thing
didn't
eh.
respect us before.
You know,
Yeah.
human nature, di ba? As you gather, you speak out, ganyan, medyo lumalapit ka sa risk. Di ba?
Right.
You're poking the bear, kumbaga. Now, sinabi na ni Ambassador Huang Xilian na
Don't
we
play
are
with
at a
fire.
crossroads.
Right, yeah.
Yeah.
Don't play with fire. We're at a crossroads. I
Right.
mean, do we just take this as more like, you know,
Is that a
Okay,
warning?
Ganito kasi ang
Or-
point, ganito ang
yeah.
point ko. I have nothing against, okay, let me use the card. Nothing against going sports mode. What I'm against is you go from 0 to 10 in like 1 year. That's too
Yes,
fast.
yes.
Look at where we were under, like if Aquino were the former president and then we're here right now, it's okay. You went from 6 to 8 or 6. You went from Digong
0 to 10,
this.
ganon.
Medyo hindi ma-appreciate, hindi ma-process
Well,
ng China.
speaking of-
That's
speaking
why
of,
I'm a little bit worried.
We made
yeah.
pronouncements that we were going to improve
Right, the
infrastructures in the Kalayaan group of
right,
islands. Does that further heighten tensions?
Isa pa
What do you
yan,
think
yeah,
about
yeah.
that?
Right.
What do you think about announcing it? That's number one. And number two, is it the right decision to go, the right direction to go at this point?
Again, this is like, again, all due respect to General Bronner, fantastic guy, great guy.
yes.
We also know he was there in the RORE mission, right? If
na
God
water
forbid
cannon siya.
So again, I am all for patriotism. I'm just saying, wag natin isabay na sports mode lahat and all. Baka nga, kasi China is very jittery right now and they have like armada of militia
Yes.
vessels during the West Philippine Sea.
Kailangan natin
It
tandaan
takes-
yun.
That we've
It
seen,
takes one
actually.
fool
Right.
to completely change the complexion of everything like that.
Pero
So now you see
nakakasanad
why
ng
I'm kind of
projects
worried
na to
suddenly.
These projects are already,
Have been budgeted?
Yeah, then
will
do
be
it
set in motion.
quietly and
You know how
slowly
we see
and
that,
sequentially.
No, and
I
even
mean,
that graphic, no, now comparing
Yeah.
China's military might with the US's military might. I mean, medyo iba yung strengths and weaknesses nila, pero may laban siya eh. And it's nothing to laugh about. It's nothing to
Right,
scoff at. Medyo nakakatakot siya.
No, kaya nga for me, what I'm not endorsing any brand. We need a Goldilocks approach, right? Not too hot, not too cold. The fundamental problem with Philippine foreign policy, I've written books and all about this. We go these wild swings. I mean, kaya nga,
So
minsan
what's the sweet spot then?
The sweet spot is something you have to find, but I don't think it's what we have right now because I think we're overdoing it. Kaya sabi ko, shift gears tayo. I'm go 1, 2, 3. I think we should have been at level 3 now. We're already at level 5 right now. So for me, you need to have a little bit of off-ramp. The one good thing though is you have a president, he's very statesman-like. You know, if you look at the statement of the president. So I want to hear more Enrique Manalo sometimes and more of BBM. Because I think we have already made it clear to China that this is not Duterte administration. We're not going to be pushovers. We're going to stand our ground. I'm all for that. But level mo lang yan. I-calibrate mo lang.
Could
So
we learn-
calibrated assertiveness is my position. That's how what
Could
we
we
should
learn a thing or two about how Taiwan has dealt with the cross-strait situation, with how DPP has dealt with it? But, I mean, syempre sila rin pareho they're managing
That's
that
exactly my reason.
relations.
If you look at Tsai Ing-wen, she comes from Democratic Progressive Party, which is known to be more pro-independence.
Right.
But throughout her 8 years term in office, you didn't hear a single indication that they're
Talaga,
going to
wala.
push for a referendum. Extremely careful, extremely careful.
I think there was one time though, I think, was it a vice president from the US visited? Tapos,
Something like
wow,
that.
yeah.
But if you look at it, in fairness to Tsai Ing-wen, she has been a stateswoman at the highest level. And we're hoping, and I kind of met William Lai last year during an event, he gave a speech. I feel there's that sense of continuity there. So if Taiwan, na sobrang kalaban talaga nila yung kabila.
At saka may threat na,
are
mayroon
extra
dumadaan.
careful.
What if
Wala,
though,
no?
Richard? Okay, obviously tapos na yung election sa Taiwan.
Right.
Pero what if yung commentang yung nanalo?
Yung opposition.
Would things be so much
Right.
more
Would it-
different here for
Because
us?
they are friendlier
Yeah.
towards China.
Which is ironic because yun ang kalaban nila
Oo nga,
Civil
dati.
War.
Congratulate
Pero
niya.
nagbago na
But-
yung ihip
but-
ng hangin. Parang
but-
MILF tsaka
But if you
MNF.
follow the Taiwanese elections, no one talked about reunification because 70% of Taiwanese, this was just around 20% a decade ago, now feel purely as Taiwanese. That means that any party in Taiwan, Republic of China, has to really thread a careful line. In the same way, in the Philippines, 80% are tough against China. So there's a consensus building in both countries and that will shape their democratic politics. Dapat morning show tayo kasi masyadong energy
Ah,
level
pero
tayo.
alam mo, Richard, I trust na hindi pa to yung end of it. So
Yes.
for
Oh,
sure,
of
balik
course
ka.
not, yeah.
And siguro yung message niya, no?
I'll join you from Beijing next.
Don't let emotions run high.
Yes.
And you're right, this is the first time I've seen you like this. I mean, talk this way.
Because it's the first time we've
Very
seen you.
un-Hungarian.
May nawawala pala
At the start of 2024.
All right, thank you so much for your insights tonight and your time for
Pleasure,
joining
thank
us.
you.
Thank you.
UP Asian Center Senior Lecturer Richard Haydarian. Do catch more of him and his analysis